Hey, Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to this, you know what, I'm going to stop introducing it like I've been. If you're watching this, you know what we're doing. And we'll cut to the chase. This is round 10, review of Italy and USA. And then round 11, we'll actually do Austria-Hungary, skip Russia, and do Germany. And this is going to be a big, this is a huge turn. This is where the game will continue. Well, it will continue regardless, but the CP path to victory can be shut down by a bad dice roll on Germany's turn here, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's review what happened with Italy. Italy purchases 6 infantry and saves 2. Now, with any luck, this will be the last time Italy is able to produce this much IPC. But they bring their transport back through the Ottoman minefield and pass. They build up the bowl of Fruit Loops in Smyrna. Kind of a weird move here. I don't think he should have left a blocker, but what I think is not set in stone. I don't feel I've completely mastered this game at all just yet. So, in fact, one thing I'll just say on that note, this strong France strategy, I have actually had opponents, I've seen adaptations of it by people who are watching these videos that I'm also playing concurrently. So, this guy, I thought that was a funny strat, but he's changing my mind. I can say that for the very least, because the UK, it has a lot of money and it has enough to do the job of smashing Constantinople and then eventually breaking through with the potential of breaking through into the hinterland of Austria-Hungary. So the argument that France and Italy could use this better than UK, I think, has some real weight to it. So strong France, or even sending Italy down here to tap one of these colonies and pick it up for the Entente. Okay, So I can't say for sure what is good or not just yet, but I'm still learning. We're still in the discovery phase. Okay, that's it. He places his 6 pieces. So he's got this large army in Tuscany, and he is throwing Venice to the wolves. And the wolves are coming. We will oblige. The US, 5 infantry and an artillery. So he will need 6 transports on the following turn. Or, sorry, 3 transports to pick those pieces up. So he's shucking over, shucking back. This is interesting. He takes the Spanish Morocco army. Kind of messy here. USA's turn is always messy. And then he sends the Americans into Ankara. So that's interesting. Boosting America's IPCs with Smyrna and Ankara. Okay. So UK is made weak, or weaker, I should say. It's a strong power. It's the strongest on the board for the Entente. But giving France the money and now giving USA this money, Italy that dollar there, UK is going to be basically abnormally weak, that weaker than I'm used to. And I don't know if we could take advantage of that or not, if there's advantage to be had. Okay, so what happened here was that he sea lifts the US Army out of Albania and drops it where? Into Smyrna. This also I'm scratching my head, but again, this is why you play different people, because this weird stuff happens, and then things you didn't see before or didn't think of before become apparent. And so right now, these moves are a little all over the place and a little confusing. Like, he lands a blocker, the equivalent of a blocker clearance team in Piedmont. Okay, so then the battle in Ankara happens. The Americans, this is not 100%, so 3-2 versus 2. 3-2 versus 2. Let's just take a look and see what this is. It's probably in the 70s, maybe high 60s. 77. All right. So that's just over 3/4 of the time. But yeah, he barely blasts both of them. and we missed both, so really sad. But again, they served their purpose. They prevented the Italians from taking that piece of ground. I would have hated to have the Italians at +3. I'd much rather have the Americans have it because it takes so bloody long for them to float that +3 over into a combat environment. So at least that's how I feel right now. All of my opinions are soft opinions. I leave my mind open to being changed about everything still at this point. So he places his units and turn complete. So he does have the transport capacity built in, ready to go to transport those assets. He's got these 2 transports ready to move in, and he must some or all of the let's take a look at his resources so we can try to predict his move, and we can kind of do some predictive analysis based off of his assets and how many transports he has in the sea zone off of Italy here. So USA has 28. So the most he could build is C4, 2 per, that's 8 infantry, and 3 times 8 is 24. 5 to 6 to 7, 28. So he could boost 4 of those infantry to artillery and still carry the whole thing over. But the point is, I think he is going to be committed to taking these 4 transports back over here. I mean, I guess what could he do? He could build tanks or aircraft and then only build, send 3 back to sort of. Wait a minute. If he. Yeah, he's got a problem already. Right, he's got a problem already. You can't. Next turn, these clear off. He can't. He's over. He's overheated his transports. The best he can move next turn is, unless he builds new transports. Yeah, this is just such a weird strategy. I mean, I guess I've seen variants of excess transports, but this is 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 transports. My God, what an investment by the USA into transport capacity. All right. I mean, what he's gonna. The thing that's frustrating is I have no idea. I can't say what. 1, 2. He can use 2 of these transports to shuck off the units in Spanish Morocco. He would be basically obligated to send these 2 transports back. Basically obligated to send these 3 transports forward. So yeah, he would cut his supply train down to a mere 4 pieces, and he's got 28 IPCs on which he can spend those 4 pieces. So even if he bought 6 IPC units, that's 24 IPCs worth of fighters and armor with 4 left over. It's just, oh my God, it's driving me nuts with how inefficient it looks. But on the other hand, and this affects my strategy for my upcoming turn, which we'll get to. Sorry for all the blathering, but it's all of the excessive transports here in the Mediterranean with the U.S. especially, but the French too, is is making me scratch my head over how to handle certain things like this Albanian territory, which is like the 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 ulcer of the CP. God, I hate that thing. I wish I could just burn it down and make it unusable or impassable, but it's a nasty little sore we kind of have to deal with, and it's especially nasty with all these bloody American transports and all these bloody American troops. So one thing I like or don't quite understand or is confusing me is, why is he dumping so many Americans into the fight for the Ottomans here? Like, anyway, you'll see why I'm really confused once I complete, at the very least, the Austro-Hungarian turn. But we're going to buy all infantry and save 2. And the reason I'm buying all infantry is because we're going to start really making World War One, the 1914 a World War One style game. We're going to start killing off. Sounds awful, but infantries are going to start falling off the board pretty quickly now. Okay, so let's start in the Far East. I'm going to send a blocker clearing team and 1+1 infantry to take that off the Brits. And, I'm doing that because he didn't back it up. Basically, it's just, Tatarstan is just hanging. So we'll kill it. And I like that we can use these assets to help dead zone Sevastopol. So if he moves any Brits up, these will be in play. I'm going to move all but 2 of these infantry down, and that's just basically so I don't want a suicide charge by that Russian piece to actually kill a blocker in Ukraine and take the territory. I just don't want that to be a thing at all. Whatever was there, I think it was 1 piece, moves south into Bulgaria, and that's so we can post a Ottoman or an Austro-Hungarian in Constantinople in the next turn and then provide additional air units as needed. One of the cute little tricks I like to pull sometimes is Austria-Hungary. Not really a trick, just taking advantage of the game mechanics. We're going to send, here's the first big thing I had to deliberate over. I'm sending 3 infantry into Albania. This is basically to shut down the territory. Even if I miss all 3 hits, and even if he scores 2 hits, he has to at least fight back, fight for it on the French turn if he wants the Italians to collect on it for the Italian turn. The reason I'm not sending in more assets is because we're making a big push now on Rome, and we need every single piece that we can up forward. So that's happening up here, and I don't want to send 4 infantry and 2 artillery with maybe even a fighter because the American transports. Okay, so I don't want to give him something so juicy that maybe he just floats those Americans back over here and just smashes it. I don't know what else these transports are doing. He's going to be looking for opportunities to use these transports, or at least he should. I don't know. He brought Americans into the Ottoman Empire. He should be reinforcing. He should be reinforcing Rome. That's what I feel like saying. But again, maybe he knows something I don't. I've already learned quite a bit from this game from this guy. So, okay. Anyway, enough of that. So, I'll push these artilleries here where they'll meet up with most of the rest of the army. And the reason I put infantry in Tyrolia, and that's just to provide, potential for the Ottomans. Between contested zones, you can move and stuff. So just expanding my area of influence if I need to on the following turn, keeping my options as wide open as possible. Plus, we're all basically heading in the same direction. Okay, these 4 fighters come to Trieste. All 4, please. All 4 go to Trieste so we can fly over the water into Tuscany on the next turn. Just basically to boost those artillery and, of course, add 8 firepower factors. Fellow from Galicia, we'll bring him into Romania. Why not? Actually, I blinked. I'll bring him into Vienna. Let's bring him into Vienna. We rolled pretty well against Russia, and it's starting to show. We have quite a bit of assets to play around with. I think that should deter the Brits, at least for another round, from coming up into Sevastopol, but we'll see. 1, 2. Now that I see this, I'm going to bounce 1 fighter down into Serbia. Why am I doing this? Just in case he decides to shove all his pieces into Sevastopol, I can move these 2 Serbian fighters. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Okay, so it needs to be a 3rd. Okay, come on. So it'll be like that. And that's just to help keep the deterrent effect. So he can commit 2 British fighters. I'll have air superiority if he decides to shove a British army into Sevastopol. So adjustment on the fly, that's fine. So we'll just do this. It's always a good habit to get into, to just click through. Okay, looks like we're done. The only thing of interest to me is Albania. Yeah, so let's do, well, Tatarstan, let's see if we smash it. Just barely. We swap pieces, but okay, whatever. Venice, this is obviously a smash. We don't care at all about the hit. And then the Albania. Oh, bloody hell. He missed 2. Okay. All right, that's good enough. So he's got some decisions to make as the French and then the American player. Well, actually as the French player, because if he lets it slip to the American side, then we've done what, at the bare minimum, what we wanted to do, which is deny the Italians these 2 IPCs unless there's some commitment by the Entente. So if I was him, I would pull these French units out, put them on transports, land them. There's no offshore because it's a contested zone, so they could fight it out and they might take it back for the Italians. But we shall see. Okay, so that's done. Drop in all these reinforcements. Okay, and that's it. We done out. Collect, and so that's why I saved 2, because we'll have 42 for next turn, so we can keep spamming a healthy amount of infantry. And we'll copy this summary. And now we get to the very, very critical turn, and the turn that makes me super nervous because there's a lot of potential for things to go right. I've kind of managed the odds in that direction, but there is a lot that can go potentially wrong too. If we have a bad roll, a really bad roll could basically bring this game to, start the game towards a quick end. And this has happened. The CP has a hard time recovering from catastrophic dice rolls, whereas the Entente can kind of take a couple of gun punches before they punch out. So I'm going to skip past the Russian turn. He and I, my opponent and I, have kind of an agreement. If he wants to do something, he can retroactively. But that's infantry in Sevastopol. He's not going anywhere. These 2 cruisers, there's literally no reason for them to even. This is dead income. Those 2 Russian cruisers. Most of these cruisers are going to be dead income, except for the fact that I have some boats up here as Germany. So yeah, we'll skip the Russian turn and go straight for Germany. And of course, we'll buy all infantry as well. Yes. So we will go into the combat move, and after sitting and staring at the screen for a long time without having to drag you into that portion of it, I'm going to sea lift 2 infantry out of the Berlin territory and drop them into Holland. This is, I think, an 86% chance because we have this offshore and the 2 infantry versus 1 infantry. It should be above 80, yeah, 85. Okay, so I figured this. I could have sea lifted 2 more artillery, but I have I've kind of gamed this out into the next turn too. So I got a plan. So anyway, everything else is basically gonna push. So Kiel is gonna push. Oh, except for I forgot one thing. This fighter needs to be edited out, and we're gonna hit Alsace. There's the big reveal. We're gonna attack this big monster, but we'll get to that in a second. So everything in Kiel goes here. Everything in Hanover goes here. So that's basically a smash. 4, 5, 6, and some change. Yeah, that's +3 over what we need. It would be really sad if we didn't get it. I'll put 1 here just because I think that might be good habit. Maybe not. 2. Yeah, that's fine. And then I'm going to send this infantry in Tyrolia into Switzerland. And then I'm going to send an artillery and an infantry from Munich into Switzerland. So we have a standard blocker clearance team. But I think I'm actually going to send 1 more infantry because whatever I send down here, and I'll explain this in a moment, but whatever I do need to clear it, I need it to be German. And I need it pretty badly to be German. And 84% is a good number to hang my hat on, but I've seen so many of these things fail. It's the same, it's like losing a plane to an AA gun. I'm going to boost it to 89 and add in a 3rd infantry. I hate doing that, but I think it is necessary. I think it needs to be done. Every other piece goes in. And so what we're left with is something that I'm going to articulate right now. First, we have an air battle. 14 planes versus his 8. This was the first thing that was like, okay, I really got to push. I really thought he would move the whole stack into Switzerland, in which case I still would have done this attack, I think. But I am surprised, kind of, because he exposed his air force to basically certain destruction. So 14, this is Axis and Allies 1941 AAA, but it's 14 artilleries versus 8 artilleries. You've battled to the death, and look at this, it's 100%. That's 99.5 or better. It just rounds up. So it's not literally 100%. Of course, there's an astronomical chance that the fellow could win with only 8 2 defenders against 14 2 attackers, but it's 99.5 or better. And the average, so what I'm most interested in from this statistic is what is the average expectations of attacking planes left, and it's pretty much 10. In certain cases, it could be 9, and in worst cases, it's 8. Terrible cases, it's 7 or less. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit conservative and say I have 9 fighters going into the land battle after I clear him off. So when I punch in 9 fighters, 4 armor, 15 artillery, and 43 infantry against his 56 infantry, 6 artillery, and then AAA doesn't know that armors don't absorb hits on defense, so you actually I basically add up their value, and since I see 3 at 1, I'll just give them an extra infantry, and on units left over, I'll just add 2, right? Because we only account for 1 piece. There's actually 3 pieces represented by this 1 piece, so that's how we come to that conclusion. I max out, drop it in order like this. This is more or less how to work the battle calculator in Axis Allies 1914, but the main thing is that we're not going to win. Of course, we're not going to win. We're looking at the average TUV swing. The average TUV swing, given we have 9 fighters and we win the air battle, is almost plus 4 pieces. Okay? That's not a huge swing. Okay, and with this many pieces, that flattens the bell curve, and so it's harder to expect, in my experience, it's harder to expect this to run right down the middle. We're more prone to plus 3s and 4s. Like I could shoot under 4 and he could shoot over 4, and that is more, it's more of a susceptible thing than if you had like half the piece count, in my experience. So this can swing. These things are really swingy, and I've had it in games where one side gets blown out, and I hate to say this, but whether I'm the CP or not, it seems like the CP eat it more than the Entente. But I think that's just because when the Entente eat it, it's not as noticeable. They're able to take 1 or 2 of these mega gut punches and still kind of wobble forward. If the CP takes a real hard gut punch, I'm thinking like I've seen as bad as -8 in situations like this. If we roll under 8 and they roll like plus 4 or 5, I would consider that like probably we're on the way out for the CP. Whereas if it was inverted and the Entente suffered -8 and the CP shot like 4 or 5 over, I'd say we're still playing a game here. We still have a ways to go. So if that's imbalance, if you want to call that imbalanced, then so be it. But the path to victory, I think, is still open. It looks like this could be quite the turn, and it certainly will be, no matter what. Even if we roll par, this is definitely a heavily active turn. If Germany's lucky enough, we could have Holland, Ruhr, Switzerland, and neuter much of the French army in Alsace. Our supply train is strong. His is essentially cut, right? These units in Burgundy will not be able to get in to reinforce them, so his attack back is going to be pretty thin. My reinforcements are all dialed in. Everything looks real nice. I'm really happy with this. So even if it goes tits up, I think this was the right play. So enough chit chat. I'm going to cycle through and make sure I clipped everything. Yes, these will just stay in post for the time being. Fleet will just stay in post. We're actually doing an offshore. And that's it. So we'll do the Ruhr and Holland first. These are battles of no consequence. Unfortunately, I'll probably have to pause this. We won't get to see the thrilling conclusion because technically I need to do the Alsace battle before the Switzerland battle. I don't want whatever losses occur here to influence his decision on what to do about Switzerland. In other words, I want to keep him in the dark about if he has the Switzerland option open. So technically, the correct game order of operations in this game, if you're playing competitively, the right answer really is to do Switzerland last. It has the highest probability of failure. Ruhr and Holland is not, and it's very consequential. Ruhr and Holland, not really much. Well, Holland can fail, but I should say that strategically, there's not a whole lot that can happen if those two screw up. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Ruhr, in fact, now that I've said that, let's just look at the Ruhr battle, because if that remains contested, he could bring his whole army, the whole French army could come up here, and we don't want that. So 10, 4, and 1. This needs to be at like 98. I want to see a high 98. Okay, I'll run the numbers at 98. Okay, so it's like 98.4, between 98.0 and 98.4, and I will hang my hat on that. I pretty much have to. There's too much at stake in Alsace. So we'll go Holland, Ruhr, and then Alsace, but we'll have to do the French side of Alsace in the next video, as well as Switzerland. He's asleep right now, I think, so we're not going to get it in this video. So here we go. Okay. Conduct naval bombardment, yes. So we will do Holland first, and the bombardment took care of it, and we traded pieces. So Holland got. Now the Ruhr, this is the first big one. Yeah, we did fine, and they shot a little bit under, but that is couples. Oh, good. We shrugged that hit, so that was great. Good job. Good use of a tank. And now we do the air battle in the Alsace, and then we'll do the battle in Alsace. So I'm expecting 10 fighters to survive, and in certain cases 9. If we shoot under par below that, that would be sad. Air battle in Alsace. That's awful. So is that, though. Okay. Oh my God. He's already shot pretty high. Oh, that was terrible. Okay. Come on. Yes, 9. So that was on the weekend of normal. There was like it was a 9.93 aircraft left, and yeah, so that was realistically, boy, that first roll was awful, wasn't it though? Jeez. Okay, now we are gonna roll big in Alsace. This is a very critical battle, especially with that strong France strategy. Oh, that doesn't look great. We totally flubbed we rolled under 2.5 here. We rolled under here. Oh, we rolled warm here. So I'm going to pause the video and find out. I should have done the expected hits, so I would know just instantly. We got 30 hits. Let's find out how under or over the Germans did here. Okay, so we did shoot under by 1.5, but honestly, it can go way worse than that when you're rolling this many dice. So I just have to be, let's just be thankful it wasn't like anything worse. Even, a full -2 or -3, 4, -4 would have been starting to get to be where it starts to be a little bit painful. So -1.5, and this is where I will have to pause the video, because again, you just never assume anything. If you do, you're giving if I selected his casualties right now, this is not good, because he can retroactively select casualties based on how many hits he gets on you. This is terrible. This is terrible. So if you ever play anyone on AAA, it's best to just pause the game, take a snip like I'm doing here, and just send it to it post. Save the AAA game, so I'll just save it right now. Save the actual game where you're, and I'll call this G11 Combat, and just save it to the desktop. So even if my computer crashes, I can reload it from this point. So I'm going to submit this to him. He will tell me if he wants to drop his armor. Basically, that's the only question. Does he want to nuke off his armor to save some of his infantry? If he didn't have his armor, of course, I would just select all his infantry and then we'd shoot back. But again, I don't want to give this guy any, never give your opponent any kind of advantage. If he rolled +8, he'd be more inclined to keep his armor, right? Because he nuked off so much of your stuff. He'd be like, oh, well then, yeah, I would have kept my armor. No, we're going to submit this. I'm going to end the video here, and we'll pick it up in the next video. Sorry for the two-parter, and sorry for the length of this video, but thanks for watching this. All the best from the good captain, and bye-bye.